There's a version of you that already gave up. Somewhere in a parallel version of your life, you quit. You stopped after the third rejection. You closed the laptop after the business failed and never opened it again. You stayed in the relationship that was slowly erasing you because leaving felt harder than staying. That version of you exists. And the only reason you're not living as them right now is because, so far, you haven't let them win. But here's the part nobody tells you. The line between that version of you and the version who makes it isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't even courage. Not really. It's one single decision, repeated quietly, over and over, in moments nobody is watching to try again. A winner is not someone who never lost. A winner is a loser who tried one more time. Sit with that for a second, because most people get this backwards their whole lives. Think about what that actually means. It means before every winner, there was a loser. The same person, same face, same doubts. The only difference between the loser and the winner is that the loser stopped one attempt too early, and the winner didn't stop at all. Let's talk about what losing actually looks like, because it's rarely dramatic. Nobody warns you about the version that shows up in ordinary life. It's not a stadium of people watching you fail. It's the fourth interview in a row that ends with, "We'll be in touch." It's checking your bank account before the rent is due and doing the math you already know won't work. It's sitting in your car outside a job you hate, needing 10 minutes before you can walk in and pretend today is fine. It's texting someone back for the third time and watching the message sit there unread. That kind of losing doesn't happen once. It happens quietly in installments until one day you realize you've stopped expecting things to get better. And that is the actual danger. Not the failure itself, but what the failure convinces you to believe about yourself. Here's what failure whispers if you let it. It tells you this is just who you are. It tells you other people have something you don't. It tells you that trying again is pointless because you already know how the story ends. And the cruelest part is none of that is true. But it feels true because pain is convincing. Pain doesn't lie to be cruel. It lies because it wants you to stop hurting. And the fastest way to stop hurting is to stop trying. So let's be honest about something. You are not failing because you're weak. You're hurting because you're still in the fight. The people who've truly given up don't feel this anymore. They've gone numb. If you still feel the sting of falling short, that's not proof you're losing. That's proof you still care about the outcome. And caring is the one thing quitting kills first. Now here's what almost nobody tells you about people who eventually succeed. They were not more talented than everyone who quit before them. They lost more, not less. More. They failed more job interviews, pitched more ideas that got rejected, had more relationships that fell apart, made more mistakes in public. The only difference is they treated each loss as information instead of identity. A failed attempt told them something didn't work. It never told them they were something that didn't work. That distinction is the whole game. Think about someone learning to walk as a toddler. They fall down dozens of times a day. Nobody in that room thinks the baby is failing at walking. Everyone understands falling is simply part of how walking gets learned. But somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we forgot that lesson applies to everything else too. We started treating every fall as proof we were never meant to walk in the first place. Let's go somewhere specific, because vague encouragement doesn't change lives, honesty does. Think about someone trying to leave a job that's draining them. They update the resume, send it out, hear nothing back, and after enough silence, they convince themselves the market doesn't want them, so they stop applying. 6 months later, they're still in the same seat, resentment building, dreaming smaller every week. That's not a failure of skill. That's a failure of one more attempt. The version of them who kept sending 5 applications a week, even after 50 no's, eventually got a yes. Not because they were more qualified, because they were still in the room when the yes finally arrived. Or think about someone trying to have a hard conversation they keep avoiding. Maybe it's telling a parent how they really feel. Maybe it's setting a boundary with a friend who keeps crossing lines. The first attempt goes badly. Words come out wrong, or the other person gets defensive, or it ends in silence instead of resolution. So they never bring it up again. They swallow it. And that swallowed conversation becomes years of quiet resentment. But the people who eventually get through to the people they love aren't the ones who nailed it the first time. They're the ones who tried again, in a different way, at a different moment, until it finally landed. This is what the framework of trying again actually requires, and it's simpler than people expect. First, separate the attempt from your identity. When something fails, ask what it means about the plan, never what it means about you. A plan can be flawed and fixed. A person is not a plan. Second, change one variable before you try again. Trying the exact same thing the exact same way and expecting a different result isn't persistence. It's just repetition. Real persistence adjusts. Different resume format. Different approach to the conversation. Different time of day, different tone, different angle. Same goal, evolving method. Third, shrink the gap between falling and rising. The most dangerous moment isn't the failure itself. It's the stretch of time right after it, when you're deciding what the failure means. The longer you sit in that stretch alone, the more the story your mind writes about it turns dark. Don't let that stretch get long. Move even slightly toward the next attempt as soon as you can. Fourth, keep score of attempts, not outcomes. If your only measure of progress is winning, you will feel like you're failing constantly because winning is rare. But if you measure how many honest attempts you made, you'll see something outcomes hide from you. You'll see that you're actually building the exact muscle that eventually produces the win. And fifth, let people see you try, not just when you succeed. So many of us only show up publicly once we've already won, because trying in front of others feels exposing. But hiding your effort also hides your growth from the people who could support you through it. Let it be seen. It makes the next attempt lighter. Now picture two versions of your life 1 year from now. In the first version, you stopped. The rejection, the failed attempt, the hard conversation that didn't land, it convinced you to close that door quietly. A year from now, you're technically fine, but there's a specific kind of tiredness that comes from watching your own potential go unused. It's not dramatic. It's just a slow, low hum of knowing you had more in you and didn't use it. In the second version, you tried one more time, not because it felt easy, because you decided the story wasn't finished. Maybe it worked on attempt 6, maybe attempt 11. But somewhere in there, the door opened. And when you look back, you won't remember the exact number of times it didn't work. You'll remember that you were still standing there when it finally did. That's the only difference between those two futures. Not luck, not some secret advantage. One more attempt. So here's what's true, whether you feel ready to hear it or not. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not the only one who's ever sat with this exact kind of tired. You are simply standing at the exact point where most people stop and where a much smaller group of people keep going. That point is not the finish line. It just feels like one because you're standing so close to it. A winner is a loser who tried one more time. Not smarter, not luckier, not more deserving, just still in motion when it counted. Whatever you're facing right now, whatever attempt just fell apart, this is not the ending of your story. This is the part right before the turn. And the only way to reach the turn is to take the next step anyway. If this reached you, if some part of this is exactly what you needed today, don't let it just pass through you. Subscribe to Motiverse, because this is what we do here every single day. We remind you that the story isn't over, and we'll keep showing up with the next reminder, the next push, the next reason to try one more time. Hit subscribe now, so when you're standing at that exact point again, we're right there with you, telling you to keep going.